So to start, this video is actually inspired by Flick221, who writes, "What's your thoughts on the Pantheon MMO?" And within this context, today I'm going to talk to you guys about my thoughts on the state of Pantheon, its development. I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience within software development. That's the approach that I'm going to come into this video. And note, I'm going to say some things, I'm probably going to mispronounce some things. That's just nature of my dyslexic brain and how sometimes I make flubs. So why not record my voice and these flubs for all the internet to enjoy. And hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name's Brian, by the way. If you're new around here, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, you sexy beast. And that's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free compliments and becoming a sexy beast at the start of these videos. As we gear up to go into 2023, I think it's only appropriate to sit down and talk about Pantheon. I think this is a video that I've been wanting to make, and I really appreciate the comment because there's a lot of thoughts that I have on this game. There's a lot of hope that I have for this game. But like I said at the video at the start of this, I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience within development and how I view the state of the game specifically. And I'm going to defend the developers here. I always like to stand up for the developers because there is this, this preconceived notion that I see happen a lot within game development and within the gamers, and there seems sometimes to be friction. I think that friction can be eased with, communication and knowledge and understanding. But at the same time, there's always these assumptions that people end up making. And that's the first thing I want to kind of point out. Now, again, I'm going to mispronounce names. I'm going to mispronounce things, and I'm not doing it on purpose. Just bear with me, guys. I'm going to do my best here. But Carnage, he recently was streaming. Now, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's actually an investor in the development team, which is great. I believe heavily in investing in games and wanting those to succeed, and he has the audience to be able to draw in more eyeballs to this modern classic MMO. I think that's going to be the way I kind of think of it until we go hands-on otherwise. But when it comes down to it, I've seen other YouTubers to call out one specifically. I know Narc is really excited about Ash as a creation, and he likes to dog on Pantheon. And when he's dogging on them because of I guess like placeholder assets, I think that's either ignorance or just trying to score points with his base. The reality is that's how development really functions. Placeholder assets aren't a bad thing. However, that does tell me that the game is not coming out in 2023, and that's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, placeholder assets, they're working on getting those to be custom assets. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want something to kind of just hold you up. And within development, this is in my mind so exciting, but I know that it probably can come off as a little bit dull, is that one of the big components of development is having human resources, having the developers on staff. And you can't keep them locked down and chained to their desk because that would be illegal. And when it comes down to that aspect, working and hiring people and bringing people on projects, it slows down projects. The same problem that Ashes is going to face. Every time they talk about hiring in new developers, what that does is reduce your capacity on each sprint because the leads and the team and everybody has to slow down their availability to actually be working on the new stuff, to actually train up the new team. Ultimately, you get more velocity when you bring on more people, but at the start, especially for the first couple of months, you're talking about a natural slowdown. And so ideally you want to be able to bring in enough people, and there's always going to be turnover, but that's just the reality of game dev. So I don't fault placement assets. That's what they're there for. They're there so that you don't have to sit here and not have anything to show or not to be able to move forward while you work on developing those out, because that is a swap of the DAT files. That is a change of those values. And so I don't put any minus points on them using that. That's smart development. Let's go. Now they talk about having more than like 500 people in the zone itself. I've even heard the devs talk about testing out 1,000 to 3,000 within the same zone instance, etc., through their proprietary network technology. And honestly, if they can pull something like that off, that will be very interesting. The reason I say interesting is because will it be fun? Maybe. We don't really know until somebody puts something together like that. I think that will be interesting. What I think that will do for me personally is when we talk about what is an MMORPG, when those 6 letters are brought together, and we're sitting here asking ourselves, like, what does this really truly mean? Well, that could end up resetting that, because we bring in Fortnite, we bring in all these, like, hell, if you guys haven't played the DMZ, the new Call of Duty mode, like, that is actually something incredibly fun with 150 players that are, like, active as the part of their Warzone and all these different things. Maybe not 150 in the DMZ, but when it comes down to these battle royale modes, is like they're kind of encroaching on massive, or what used to be considered massive, of like so many characters. When you look at Blue Protocol on the horizon, 200 max in the city, 30 max in the field, like, okay, is that quote unquote massive? It ends up becoming this debate within MMO communities, and it's a fun debate to have, and there's really no answer, so to speak, because you have so many different subgenres within the genre label. But if you go and start to see here, like, man, I'm looking at 1,000 people or 2,000 people on screen and a war, we don't know if it's going to be fun, but we definitely could say that's the new level for massive. So it's going to be really cool to see how that plays out. Now, here's what I think is going to be the most dramatic piece of the puzzle. And this is dramatic because this is, how do you define the MMO? Most people, the majority of people, define it by World of Warcraft. I'm not a WoW guy. Never have been. I've tried. I just lose so much in the quest hub access, the moving from zone to zone and never returning to a zone. There's no value. Like, at some point, like, that zone was a chapter in a book and there's never any reason to go back to it. That is one way of really losing my immersion into a game. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Trust me. Like, I applaud options and styles, right? But that's essentially one of the big appealing reasons that New World appeals to me, is there's reasons to be in all the zones. It's not like the zone is only when you're level 1 to 10 and then you never thus return to it. No, by all means, like, return to these zones. They're active, they're lively, there's a reason to be in them. And I like that aspect. And so that ties to Pantheon, right? No quest hubs. Quests don't give experience. They're not your leveling mechanism. And that's going to be a shock to a lot of people's system who didn't experience this before. Quests are not how you level up. And I'm starting to really kind of lean into that. I don't actually personally mind if quests you don't give experience. I have no issue with that. But I find that the experience should be coming from all other sources and not primarily quests. I think it's, I'm not going to sit here and say that they should never ever give experience, but the fact that quests in Pantheon reward gold, reward skill points, and all these different kind of other aspects, that's the motivation to go and do those and get involved in them, not necessarily to click through, move to the thing, kill the thing, come back, etc. Because that's essentially kind of the fatigue that I think a lot of people feel with MMOs. So it's kind of seeing them kind of scale that back and push people more out into the world doing things, and having quests be there as a level of importance, but not the thing that moves you from point A to point B to point C, never to return to A again. I'm happy to see them actually try this out. Will it be successful? Well, I mean, the truth of it is that if you're coming from a WoW background, a Final Fantasy 14 2.0 forward background, I think you're going to find that it ends up being a level of, it's going to be a translation issue. You're going to be speaking a whole nother language, and you're going to have to adapt to the language here. And for a lot of people, I think that actually might confuse them. They might be frustrated by that. So just be prepared for all the dramatic videos when this game eventually releases to be like, whoa, the quests and there's no experience. How do I level up and things like that? So it's going to be entertaining for me. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be entertaining. Then it goes into the fact that no map, climbing and sprinting, it uses endurance. Love that you can climb. I think that's something I want to talk about with Throne of Liberty. I like the mobility. I like the movement. I like the exploration of these games. I personally don't want flying when it comes down to MMOs. And if you guys want more information on why, I can make a video on that. This one's already getting a little bit long, so I'll wrap it up with one final thought. Near death. I think the near death system is fascinating. The fact that you can crawl and bleed out faster is interesting. It's strategic. I think that's going to be very important in the fights to be coming up. I think that if you get pulled out of near death and back, and the fact that you get there's a cooldown on near death, so you get hit off and get knocked down again, then you're dead. I think this is going to be great. I love that aspect. I feel like it does blend in some of the modern with some of the classic. And my stance has been and will continue to be that I think the future of the MMO genre as a whole is going to be the game that blends the the sandbox and the theme park together in the sand park. Now, Pantheon, I think, is leaning more sandbox than theme park, which I think is actually a really good thing. But I think the reality is, and the kind of the final thought, and maybe this should be a first thought at some point in another video for people who don't make it to the end of my videos, but the final thought here is that I don't think MMOs are as popular as people think that they are, because they compare them to what WoW did. WoW is an outlier in terms of numbers. WoW, that moment could happen again, but I think the technology has to make a big, massive leap, something that can only be done in that respect. The thing I'm looking for in terms of Pantheon, what will really drive at home for me is, can I play it on my controller? Can I do these certain things? Is it going to be a game that I can jump in and have, some level of accessibility? I'm not calling for pure convenience, because I think convenience has really killed the MMO. But I think ultimately I want the ability that I can jump in and have a couple different options for what my playstyle is going to be that day. Do I have 10 minutes? Do I have 10 hours? It's like within that range that hopefully it ends up being a game that I'm able to pick up and play, and then that's a game I can also get lost in. Some of the visuals I think are really cool. The combat in and of itself, it's going to turn people off. I know that it's going to be a classic combat system. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out over the course in the long run. As somebody who's playing Embers Adrift and actually really enjoying it, it's these games are trying to do something and honestly give people the value of put up or shut up, right? It is either going to be like, if you're looking for this kind of game, you do owe it to yourself to at least try it when it comes out. Doesn't mean you have to stick with it, but it comes down to, like, people say that this is the kind of game that they're wanting, this is the return to the MMO and etc. But if it doesn't get the support, then it's all just talk. And I know gamers, we love to talk, and I think when it comes down to it, money is also the other aspect, the other facet of it. And so it's great to see more coverage of this. It's great to see more conversation about this. And thank you again for the question that inspired this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my thoughts as we gear up for 2023. I would expect Pantheon to be kind of a bigger question as we gear up to 2024, 2025. Same kind of prediction that I have for Ashes, and that could be something very interesting when it all gets put down together. And like, these are going to maybe appeal to two different kinds of players, or maybe we'll see what happens when you have like two different styles of communication, two different styles of gameplay, two different visual aspects, all brought together. So for me, I think it's all data. It's all like interesting things for me to kind of consume as a dev, as a gamer, and to see what ultimately shakes out. So guys, thank you so much for your time today. If you feel like the video earns it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you do, as a thank you, here's a picture of a dragon. That's right. That's what you get for hitting the like button. Special bonuses, and whatnot for for these videos itself. So guys, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, send off in the comments, Soul Nation represent, love the dragon pick. And guys, hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But until then, take care.